Americans are sitting on $150 trillion trust fund. Is this real? How will this affect us? If it is real, we're going to get into it. I got the backstory and what actually this means. I've seen a lot of people guessing and it's not quite accurate, but I have the answer for you. Also, we're going to talk about there's 72 ETFs that the SEC needs to approve. A lot of those are XRP. We're going to talk about the impact of the market. XRP derivatives went live today. We're going to discuss that. John Deaton has a new clip kind of trashing Ethereum, you'd say, and talking positively about XRP. We're going to get into this $150 trillion, of course. And then I got a few XRP stuff at the end. Let's go ahead and get into it. I hope you had a good Easter. Rest in peace to the Pope. Sorry to hear that. All right. BlackRock's IBIT is still the fourth most traded ETF on the market. The BlackRock's XRP ETF is coming. So there's a lot of people that believe BlackRock and JP Morgan and some of these really big institutions will be coming in eventually here. If you listen to Larry Fink in the past, when he transitioned, Bitcoin, he's against Bitcoin to being for Bitcoin. That was because of a demand inside of BlackRock for Bitcoin. And he changed his tune as he got better educated, which I think a lot of people do in the crypto market. They first think it's a scam, don't trust. Then they start to better understand cryptography and how it can be used to better our lives. And before you know it, they are on our side, right? They are fans of the technology. They see what we see finally. And I think that's what we are also waiting for is the rest of the world to start understanding the impact of crypto that, will have on our everyday life, Anyways, so here is a complete list. Chad Steingraber posted this and everybody's stealing this. I've seen this posted by like 30 different people on Twitter today. I'm sure my team will farm it too, but whatever. Here it is. Here are, if you're familiar, these are the issuers. So who applied for them, what the ticker is going to be, the company, the asset, the purpose filing, all these different dates and the deadlines that are involved in these dates. But as you can see, there's a ton of interest for XRP stuff. I think more interest for XRP than anything else. But here's Solana. You got some different, 3 or 4 different Solana ones in here. You even have some Cardano ETFs, which I think is a good idea as well. Polkadot. Anyone still using Polkadot? You don't need to raise your hand. All right. Coinbase derivatives will launch XRP futures trading today. Saw a lot of hype, on Twitter about this. Of course, never fall in love with any date. This is just another step forward in the 1,000 steps we need to take in order for mass adoption and real price discovery. But every bit we get closer is a bit we've achieved. Like we are slowly gaining speed and momentum here. All right. And then we've seen this for a long time. I've been showing this since I came into the crypto space. There's a lot of new people in here that maybe haven't seen this, but here's a graph basically depicting Ripple and XRP have gotten access is the wrong word. They've established partnerships with these institutions and institutions that support these institutions, stuff like Volante, CGI Worldwide, Finastra, these types of institutions. And so they actually, in the Target 2 system, in the SEPA system, in Fedwire, in Chaps, you can use XRP if you so choose to. And if all of these systems ran on XRP, they would run a lot more simply and cheaply. Obviously, you're never going to get every system on the exact same thing. But if every system has the access to that thing, then money can move seamlessly across borders. I'd imagine, XDBAR, Algorand, and a bunch of others are going to be similarly connected to the world's financial system. All right, kaboom, XRP is going to replace Ethereum this year. John Deaton, let me play this.
Long story short, it's about real world utility and Ethereum. It's slow, it's expensive, and quite frankly, the community has lost a lot of momentum since the Donald Trump election. What are some of your thoughts as to why XRP may pass Ethereum?
The lawsuit suppressed a whole lot of stuff. Let's remember, January 2018, XRP was briefly number 2. Even after the Hinman speech, which was June 14th, 2018, where Bill Hinman gave, the free pass to Ethereum. Even after that, in October of 2018, briefly, XRP flipped Ethereum. And so, listen, people that love ETH are going to be mad at me, but I'm just saying it what it is. Ethereum blew the greatest regulatory advantage of any asset class that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
That speech gave clarity to Ethereum and Bitcoin. And since Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts and all that kind of stuff, it was the biggest regulatory advantage you can imagine. And I just see people losing faith in Ethereum for whatever reason. I think Ethereum is going to survive and do fine.
Yeah.
But I do believe XRP will flip it. I know this community, and I can tell you.
All right, really quickly, what we're talking about here is probably one of the greatest fumbles in financial market history, right? Ethereum had the free pass for years. They had clarity that no other asset had with smart contracts, as John said, right? XRP didn't have it. XLM didn't have it. Ethereum could have taken over the world, but they were more focused on selling and dumping Ethereum on you, right? That's what happened. They kind of gave up. Sure, they've been trying to update Ethereum so the gas fees don't charge you $50 or $100 per. And I think they've actually been able to get those gas fees below a penny. But I hate to break it to you, there are 1,000 other blockchains now that were already under a penny. So Ethereum actually getting to where those other blockchains are, is that really something to celebrate? I mean, you've had your blockchain now since what, 2015-ish? You raised money because you needed to finish your blockchain, which basically was an ICO. You needed to raise money to build out the rest of Ethereum. You said that so much in an email. That is a security under US law. How did they get by, right? How did they get through? $15 million buys you a lot of good peace in whatever government it is. And believe me, I'd love to say that the US government doesn't have corruption, but believe me, we have corruption. Ripple has over 50 money transfer licenses across the United States. These licenses allow Ripple to legally offer cross-border payment services using XRP and its RLUSD stablecoin to facilitate expanded access to U.S. financial institutions. This puts Ripple ahead of the curve with a regulatory green light. Many others are still chasing, while Coinbase, Circle, Bitco, and Paxos applying for banking charters. Ripple is already positioned to scale stablecoin usage and institutional payments in the United States. And he says documented. Spicy. And here is that documentation. Not exactly sure what bill this is from, but you can see here it includes New York and Texas. I believe this is when Ripple got the licenses approved for New York and Texas, and they're just kind of bringing this up now. Remember, there's all kinds of new stablecoins being added to the XRP ledger through Zago and other partners. I would imagine over the next 5 to 10 years, you are going to see hundreds of different stablecoins across all of these different networks. Stablecoins really are the future. I was listening to, I can't remember like a podcast or a YouTube video, and they were saying that over the next, 10 to 20 years, 30-40% of all currency will be in stablecoins. Kids that are born today, right, or that are 2 or 3 years old will probably never understand the current banking model that we knew, that we grew up with checks and 3 to 5 day wait times for payments. Some people will never experience that. Just like, if you were my age, you were born and there was no internet, right? What did we do for fun back then? I don't know. We were different people, I think. All right, here it is. Now, I first heard this yesterday on Easter. I was, doing my thing. I can't put my phone down. So I was on YouTube and I saw this clip and I was like, man, I have to make a video about this. I need to understand this better. Is there really $150 trillion? If it was, wouldn't that solve all of our problems pretty quickly? Yes, it would. But listen to what he says, and then I'll show you the facts of what he's talking about.
In 1873, Congress quietly established something I call a secret trust for the American people. And for more than a century, this fund has quietly grown untouched into a $150 trillion fortune. That's enough to pay off our entire national debt 4 times over. If you divided it by the number of households in the U.S., it would be enough to turn every American family into a millionaire. Now, this trust should have enriched generations of Americans. That was its intended purpose. Instead, for more than a century, it's remained sealed off from the public. But that's all about to change. Thanks to President Trump. You see, for the first time in more than 40 years, the president has the authority to release this secret trust. It's all thanks to a 2024 Supreme Court ruling. That ruling had paved the way for President Trump to unleash this $150 trillion wealth reserve, and he's clearly stated his intentions to do so. Look, if you understand what's coming next, and you take the proper steps today, you could watch your net worth soar in the coming years.
All right, I mean, some of the stuff he said there, accurate. You could watch your net worth soar over the coming years if you are positioned correctly. But, where's this $150 trillion? Who has access to it, and why, if that's there, doesn't like Trump or Biden or Obama or Bush, why does none of them brought it up? Well, here you go. I said America's secret $150 trillion plan. Is this real, right? Is it real? Summary of claim. Recent headlines and commentary from Jim Rickards, who was a former CIA advisor and economic forecaster, has drawn attention to what he calls a $150 trillion asset on U.S. soil. Rickards claims that for 160 years, vast mineral resources, copper, lithium, silver, rare earths, uranium, and more, are buried beneath federally controlled land and have been legally, bureaucratically locked away from development. He argues that recent Supreme Court decision overturning the Chevron doctrine has now cleared the path for resources to be exploited. All right. What is 150 trillion, 50 trillion asset? Not cash or a traditional fund. The 150 trillion figure does not refer to money in a bank or conventional trust fund. Instead, it's an estimate on the potential market value of untapped mineral resources beneath federal lands. What's included? Copper, lithium, all of these rare earths that I went over already, right? These are used in technology, defense, and energy. Roughly 28% of all U.S. land is federally owned. Much of it is in the West and believed to contain these resources. So they believe it contains this. They don't know for sure. A few questions come up when I read this. One is, most of this land are parks and places that families go to get away from the city, the clean air, stars, camping, fires, you name it. Americans love to camp. All right. We love to go out and be one with nature. Not me. I like it, but I don't like sleeping on the ground. Right. Nature's great. Just don't like sleeping on the ground. But a lot of people really, really love it. And so, are these people going to be interested in having that land that's, part of their history and their family? A lot of these families go to the same spot every year, right? Their family trip. Are they going to be okay with the federal government, tractors and just destroying this beautiful land for this? And do you really think that they're going to give us a cent, right? I don't. Whatever president does approve this, if it does get approved, there is going to be pushback that you probably haven't seen before. There's going to be millions of people on the streets pushing back against this, because I don't think Americans believe that they're going to get 1 cent. And I don't think they want their nation's parks destroyed. Anyway, let's keep going. Deutsche Bank, Standard Chartered reportedly looking into expanding into U.S. crypto custody. We did talk about this, but this is a new headline here. What bank isn't going to be looking at getting into crypto custody? Like, if you want to remain a bank, you need to offer your clients new innovation, new technology. Because if you don't, and other banks are, you're going to lose those customers, right? No matter how great your customer service is, if they want the new technology and you don't have the new technology, they are going to leave you. That's just how it goes, right? People want to go where they get the most bang for their buck. And if that is with Deutsche Bank or Standard Chartered or any of these other banks, they're going to do it. So most of these banks are not going to want to have their own infrastructure for custody. They're going to go to Fireblocks. They're going to go to Ripple Custody. They're going to go to those types of solutions for custody, to custody those assets for the bank. Like, I'd imagine BNY Mellon is the bank for banks. Banks custody assets with BNY Mellon. I kind of look at it as the same with Ripple custodying assets for these banks, right? Ripple becomes a BNY Mellon. And I think that would be a good video to do, actually. Mental note. All right. Ziaf, whatever. Thank you for posting this, man. It says XRP was created to replace Swift. New diagram shows how Ripple is set to transform global payments. U.S. banks ready to embrace Ripple protocol for instant cross-border transfers, streamlining the current Swift-based system. Here is on the top, you have the current system, which is the Swift system, Nostro Vostro debt system. And of course, on the bottom is the more simplified, faster, cheaper, more beautiful XRP and Ripple solution. I just start to wonder if banks, what I've read right now is, especially banks in the United States, they are having a liquidity problem. There's still major effects from the C word. I don't want to say it because YouTube's weird about that. And you know, a lot of these office buildings that were worth tens of millions or hundreds of millions, right, depending on the location of the office building, are not worth that anymore, right? And people are walking away from their loans in those buildings with banks, and they're it's just too expensive, right? The 10-year treasury note is at like 4.5 on its way to 5%. If we get to 5%, it is going to be chaos. You know, it's going to be really, really bad for Americans. So anyways, a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to work on a financial video, give you some updates on what's happening right now in the US. Make sure to watch that and support that video. I'm trying to transition to some other content for you guys. That way you can be fully prepared on what's to come. I hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, please like, please share. I'll see you next time. I've been Crypto Sensei. Do you like the new lighting? Do I need to change a few things? I'm working on it. I'll see you guys. Bye.